anything here today.
And why the millennial generation is starting to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability. RTD Live Talk, Thursday night, the 29th day of the month of November, and we are live. Looking forward to finding out what is on your mind. And as always, there's a number above my head, 1-833-LIVE-RTD. That's a number for you to call in to join the chat, join the conversation tonight, what's going on. And also, any new viewers, feel free to let me know where you're watching us from. Always love to welcome new viewers to the channel and right here in the chat if you want. And other than that, I want to find out what's on your mind, and more importantly, get your thoughts on the video I did earlier in reference to the idea of hoarding. And of course, you know, that's just the mainstream narrative that was given to us. I assume it's a lot more to that equation, given the fact that the gentleman was reported as having 2 tons of gold coins. And so I read that he's basically a bullion dealer there, but not sure of the details because there was no details given. But the idea that he's being executed for whatever he did lets me know that that's not considered justice, and there was somewhat of an outcry internationally by Amnesty International and whatnot. So not sure if anything will be done or has been done, because I think about now the article being a week or so old, it might be too late. But I thought it was something I would cover tonight, just because who would have ever thought that using the word hoarding in reference to basically just what we call here at Rethinking the Dollar, getting your weight up, could be considered a financial crime. So I want to get your thoughts on that, and let's talk about any opportunity or any chance of that type of activity being considered a financial crime here in the U.S. in the days ahead, as we experience whatever a lot of commentators say is coming. And so other than that, who's joining us tonight? We got R. Rafterman. How you doing? We got low blood pressure. We got No One. Says, hi Mike, what are your thoughts on Deutsche Bank raid? You think they will go down or get bailed out? Man, so that's a good one there. So I saw some articles, didn't even dive into it, and since we're on here right now, let's go ahead and touch on that a little bit. And so I'm interested to find out exactly some of the details myself, because beyond the fact that Deutsche Bank is being mentioned every couple months for being involved in some type of banking scandal, here they are getting raided. So that doesn't fare well for their shareholders, even though I know the company's not doing all that well, and they're on the brink of basically probably I wouldn't say getting bailed out, because I'm not sure if the European people would go for that directly, but I do see a bail in. And I'm not sure what their balance sheets look like other than the derivative exposure they have. But I would imagine that there are, people who are not considered investors directly are probably savers and depositors, and their accounts are the ones that are in jeopardy. So I imagine that as a part of the whole bail-in process, they have everything lined up for the insolvency of those banks. So I don't think it would be a bailout, but there might be a bail-in, even though that won't cover it because of all the things on the books that we don't know about or know the full extent of how deep it goes with them being over-leveraged in derivative exposure. But article here, I thought this picture was very telling, because they got some police vehicles parked nicely outside of the Deutsche Bank headquarters. It says, raided in Panama Papers probe. So Panama Papers, man, that was about a year ago, wasn't it? Easily a year ago. Let me just search that, because the Panama Papers, let me see, let me go back into news, because that's old news is basically what I'm getting at. And so if that Panama Paper stuff initially surfaced a couple years ago, or a year or two ago at least, why now? And so apart from, you know, and this just, we can just start talking right now and get into the nitty gritty of this, but if the Panama Papers is the headlines as being associated with Deutsche Bank being raided, and the Panama Papers was a year or two ago, it looks like Deutsche Bank is being set up for a fall. And so with all the scandals they've been involved in, money laundering and LIBOR rigging rates, and all of a sudden the Panama Papers is what sticks to them, apparently. So I believe, this is just my opinion, that right now Deutsche Bank is under deliberate attack by probably some extreme monetary forces to basically shine light on their problems, to begin unraveling in a more orderly fashion prior to some type of systemic collapse. Because right now Deutsche Bank is under a lot of pressure. I'm assuming that their financial dealings is probably wavering right now, but it's not a global contagion or meltdown just yet. It's just isolated to Deutsche Bank. So I believe that this is probably something deliberately for Deutsche Bank to help them begin the process of unwinding smoother than it would be if it was some type of global bank shutdown, scare the world, everybody's running to the bank to make a withdrawal. And so other than just it says that Germany's biggest bank employs 95,000 workers and has assets worth 1.4 trillion. So their assets that they have on their balance sheet, I'm not even sure what's probably mortgage-backed securities and depositors and all the cash from depositors. It's just about 1.6 trillion. It's one of the 29 lenders designated by the Bank for International Settlements as playing a significant role in the global financial system. So they're one of 29 banks, and they are labeled the most deadliest. And so let's see if they cover anything about derivatives here. It says the lender struck a $7.2 billion deal with the U.S. government. Here's a scandal. They struck a $7.2 billion deal in 2007. And it says it was fined $630 million the same month over a Russian money laundering scheme. And so right there, all those fines, but like always, no one goes to jail. So as of now, I would just imagine until there's more news given, and unfortunately, we won't see any executives or CEOs walking out in handcuffs, I'm sure. But I wouldn't pay much into this as of yet. I think it's more so just a way of putting Deutsche Bank in the spotlight to, basically begin unraveling some things there before they actually go under in a collapse form. So that would be my 2 cents there. But thanks for bringing that up. And so what else am I going to say here? It says they have been bailed out so many times before. Hey, Mike, what do you think about Trump canceling the meeting with Putin in Argentina? Oh, that's another good one. So I saw the tweet that the president put out today referencing the since looks like his ex-lawyer, who apparently was had 7 private meetings with Mueller during the whole investigation process, and it was determined that during the campaign process or something of that nature that he was in negotiations with trying to do a Trump Tower in Moscow still. And so I think the whole idea of canceling with Putin, apart from it, I personally think it's a bad idea. But in order to keep the Democratic Party off his head and all the prosecution scandal stuff they're trying to put on him in reference to him actually partnering with Putin or working for Putin or whatever, we don't need an enemy. Basically, is what I'm getting at. We don't need an enemy in Russia that is allies with China, and they're already doing things behind our backs. We need to make sure we have peaceful relations with these people, not pissing everybody off the way we are. And so having canceled this meeting doesn't solve anything, because at the end of the day, Trump is a businessman. He just happens to be the president right now. And so this man has, I don't know how many hotels total all over the world. And so what's wrong with him having a Trump Tower in Moscow? Before he's president, or definitely when he leaves office, he's going to have a Trump Tower in Moscow. So that's irrelevant to what's the biggest problem we're facing. It has nothing to do with Russia, in my opinion. But of course, as always, the United States of America needs someone to point the blame, and they need someone to basically we need an enemy at all times. So it looks like. It says, hey, Mike, my son's got a yo mama joke. Okay. He says, someone, mama so dumb, she thinks Starbucks is alien currency. Okay. Okay, I got a chuckle out of me. Wasn't expecting a your mama joke, but okay. Thinking he gets bailed out due to owing big banks big debt. Thinking GE gets bailed out. GE, okay, man. So we jumping right into it tonight, man. We covering Deutsche Bank, GE, the Panama Papers, and so General Electric. That's a sad story there, given the fact that GE is one of the oldest American-based companies, and to find out that they are on the brink of basically going under due to a variety of issues due with poor management. This economy that we're in now doesn't help, given the fact that they have probably taken on more debt to stay afloat, while the GE product line is not necessarily a game changer anymore. Hence the idea of what's happening in China, pretty much coming into the whole the electrical side of things that GE does. So I think it's going to be very telling that it will definitely be a very scary situation for our company, because I believe that any type of catalyst or trigger or fuse can be lit, and it doesn't even have to be a financial institution these days. It can be a top S&P 500, Forbes 100 type of company that is basically on the brink of being insolvent / just broke, that goes under. And because a lot of the corporate debt in the form of their bonds and all their equity or whatnot has been considered. GE's people who probably hold GE in their portfolio would have never imagined that at this point in time that there will be a threat of possibly losing out on the long-term history behind GE. The fact that they've been around for 100 plus years, and now they won't be around for another 5 to 10 in its current form. That's going to impact a lot of people's investment portfolios, to where all it takes is one GE to go under, because I'm assuming that a lot of people are invested in GE just as part of their natural portfolio that most people know nothing about. And so I can see it being very troublesome down the line, and it will not end pretty. And so the question I would pose to you guys is, seeing the problems that GE's having, seeing where retail stores are, with the problems they're having, seeing how everything is shifting to where now the world's interconnected. Like there's more creative investing opportunities outside this country. Would you still want to invest in a company that may not be around for much longer? And are you even aware if you have GE stock in your portfolio? Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. It's Russell from Missouri.
Russell from Missouri. How you doing this evening? What's on your mind tonight?
Doing great. Well, I don't know if it's you that liked it, but I mentioned in your post this morning. Mm-hmm. I posted about the Deutsche Bank raid. I don't know if somebody went on there and liked it, but
yeah.
Anyways, I just wanted to run a couple things past you about
Hello? We got sound now.
Can they hear you?
Give me a, so I apologize for the inconvenience. Can you hear me now? Scratch your head if you're reading this. Check.
Can they hear me?
No sound. Okay, so sound is back. Yes, it's back. Okay, so, all right, so, you know, I'm sorry. So it looks like my sound dropped off, but I apologize. And so clearly that is a problem there, but forgive me. Forgive me.
It's all good.
So anyway, so apart from the fact that you couldn't hear me, or couldn't hear us, you know, so basically they didn't hear anything we said. And so 5 minutes almost. So I apologize for that. So basically what we were, you know, we have a caller here. So basically let's tip off that a little bit. We're talking about derivatives and how there's no way of resolving that matter. And so I have a caller here. Give us your name one more time, and then we'll let you go. But I apologize for that because nobody heard what you said, I assume.
Okay, I'm Russell from Missouri.
Russell from Missouri. So, Russell, I appreciate you calling, and I owe you one, Russell. I apologize for that. Thanks for calling in, though.
Hey, I'll just take some white, buddy. I'll just take some white.
Well, Bet, watch this. Before we get off tonight, I'm gonna make it up, and I'm gonna do a little, put a question out there for a giveaway, and try to put a gram in somebody's hand, just because I messed up on my part tonight. So I'm gonna do something for you in the chat.
I don't care who gets it. Somebody's getting it. That's awesome.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Have a good night, Russell.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So I you know, see, once again, so I was pulling stuff up on the screen and listening to him talk, and it got really good back here about derivatives. And so the question was basically, how can they resolve this? And after really thinking about this and pulling up a couple little images here, it came to my mind that there is no way of resolving this, because they didn't give this certain name to the 29 banks that are all considered systemic risky institutions. So the fact we have GSIBs, so just the letters GSIB with a small s, GSIBs. So I've been studying and looking into GSIBs over the last year or two, trying to understand how all this thing is interconnected. And the GSIBs over my shoulder right here, these are the banks that are a systemic risk to you. And when we talk about risk, I want to actually point out, to go back to the origins of a central banker that came up with the concept of avoiding risk, the best ways to avoid risk. So if you're involved in any of this, and so just if you guys can't see, I can call off a couple banks. To the purple here is all U.S., J.P. Morgan, Bank of New York Mellon, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Citigroup, State Street, Wells Fargo. That's all America. Then over here we have China. We got Bank of China, Chinese Construction Bank, and at the very bottom is the European area. So Europe has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 banks that are labeled a risk. And so if you are, as an investor, as a saver, depositor, if you're engaged in any activity with these institutions here, your risk is that much greater. And then, just to put it all to rest, and then we move on to something else, I'll get to some questions, stop rambling. And to take it even further, this is John Exter's counterparty risk pyramid of telling you what is money at the very bottom and what is hot air at the top. And look what's at the top. 1 quadrillion, according to however old this could have been, 1 quadrillion worth of derivatives. And once again, this picture here, these 29 banks here are the banks that hold that 1 quadrillion. And so since we have derivatives at the very top of the food chain of the riskiest of riskiest, you can't unwind this, because this big 1 quadrillion, or whatever it could be as of now, the weight of that to the global economy is too heavy to begin to try to unwind in a reasonable way. So this block of hot air will cause everything underneath it that is of like nature, paper or just solely digits, to vanish. to be rendered worthless, because at the very second from bottom, the base money is what all this stuff is denominated in. So when this goes, so everything comes down, and the only thing that is not a digital blip on a screen or a piece of paper that you can just find anywhere, one of these instruments right here, is metals. And that's gold, which is a bigger block than silver. So hence the idea, people, of get your weight up. And I'm gonna leave it at that. So yeah, so I apologize for the error on my part. Not sure. Microphone went out, and I got a good mic here. I'm not sure what's going on, but you missed that 5 minutes or so. I apologize for that. I can't edit it out, but you missed some good stuff. It says, hi Mike, what else we missing? So let me scroll down some. It says all assets are derivatives. True. They're all counterparty risk. Yes, they all are spinoffs or certificates or liabilities of some other asset. True. Apart from something tangible and physical in your possession that you own outright, which could be a multitude of things, but in reference to the monetary system, we know what that is. It says, I don't mind crypto yet. Brando to use cake, cheese, McGrath to cut mining costs. Okay. I haven't gotten to mine. He says, I don't touch crypto with your money. Good luck, not for me. It says, everyone, what did I say? Everyone something. Everyone, Mike, you hear Putin say, yes, rethinking the dollar. He says, dollar moving away from him. Yeah. Yes. That's the thing. Like, hearing that video from yesterday about Putin saying that the United States is moving away from him, he's not moving away from the dollar. Hence the idea of rethinking the dollar. Like, the idea of rethinking the dollar, the way it came to me was, I don't remember exactly how the words rethinking the dollar came to me, but when it did, it was very premature. It was like, people were talking about the dollar this, the dollar that, but it wasn't as forefront of soon to become mainstream news like it is now. And so just these three words here are still, underappreciated for now, but one day I believe those words, people will not be rethinking. They're going to be pissed at the dollar. So the goal, hence the goal, is to get people to begin thinking outside the box, realizing that a paradigm shift is happening all around them. Whether or not they choose to adapt to it is on them. Rather, benefit to risk is huge, is worth the risk. They block a lot of that, but worth looking at. It says, Mike, will the next recession be worse than 1929? Spirit King. I have every reason to believe that, because of the globally systemic nature. Hence, like I just pulled up a minute ago, the GSIBs, because these banks here, because there's no realistic solution to managing what's on the books of these 29 banks here, with Deutsche Bank being at the very center. There's no way of coming up with a solid answer that can unwind the dealings that this institution has. They've put themselves in a very favorable position because they've had everything to gain over the last 100+ years of being a central bank supported entity as a whole, and they have everything to gain and they have absolutely nothing to lose. Hence, because everything on their books doesn't really belong to them. It's given to them by depositors. So they've been gambling with depositors' funds for a century plus. And then with those funds, they then set a portion aside, and then they then hypothecate and reloan out 90% of what they have on their books. So how can you lose if you're involved in here? If you're one of the owners of these institutions here, you cannot lose. So all the executives, which are the central bank people, whatever, the oligarch families that are involved in this, it's a win-win for you anyway. So you're good, because if the banks go under, it's okay because you own the central banks that print the currency, so you're gonna get paid regardless. So man, it's just a win-win for the banking system, but it's not for the what's the name? So the public. So yeah, man, definitely something to keep in mind, people. The riskier the better. Jeff, we got some recommendations from Mr. Jeff here. Pop these up. It says RTD PayPal address, Mike. I'll get to this here. I'll give you the actual link. Appreciate you inquiring about that. Make it easier for you. And so, for those that might be tuning in, we had like a little error. For whatever reason, my mic went out. And I was talking for a good little minute. And nothing came up. So, typo. If you click that link there, that'll have all the information you need. If you want to contribute to the page, I appreciate the gesture, my friend. Says you can make it at home or whatever. So, Mike, are you familiar with Ithaca Hours, a local currency used in New York? I want to say I've heard about it, but I'm not familiar with it. And so, since I'm here, I'm going to pop it up on the screen. And so, of course, it's not a bad idea. IthacaHours.com. Creating community economics with local currency. And so we got a young lady holding some paper there. And so I wonder, I don't know much about it, but there's, I mean, I know of and have heard of several communities that have their own little local way of either bartering or having their own local currency that's, you know, minimum in supply and circulates amongst communities. So definitely, I think if it holds its weight, as far as people having confidence and trust in it, I say, hey, more power to you. So I take it, are you from Ithaca or whatever region that is, whatever part of New York that is from? It says you can make a. It says we had a good convo going, Mike. R. Rafterman, yeah. I apologize for that, man. And just having speaking about Deutsche Bank and hearing your thoughts on that, it was, man, got me thinking, and it really made me really want to pull up that stuff I just mentioned about how because of the systemic nature of our monetary system, 1929 will be looked at in history, in the history books, how many ever years from now, given the fact that we get there in a peaceful state, will be, you know, this time frame of what's going to occur and what's unfolding now. People will look back and say, wow, how could the people have let, you know, those institutions drain them dry of their wealth and tax them and run deficits like the government is running a $1 trillion deficit, like they're borrowing $1 trillion plus a year. And since we own here, I just came across something else I thought I would bring across you. And just it's not sustainable. It would never work for a family or individual to basically live in the negative and live off a credit card continuously because they have a printing press in the basement. So, you know, I would be willing to bet that it has gone on for a while, but it's not designed to last. And so just to let you know how bad things really is on the surface and under the surface, here's an article here that says the U.S. is spending $1.5 billion on debt interest every day. So we're spending $1.5 billion in interest. We ain't even touched the principal. And what's even scarier about the idea of paying $1.5 billion, tax receipts have dropped to the point where, because of tax cuts that's going on, the government's taking in less in revenue. So that's like the equivalent of, you know, having a full-time job, using your credit cards to pay your bills, but yet you tell your employer, you know what, I want you to take about 2 or 3 hours off my week, which means you get 2 or 3 hours less of income to pay for the interest on your credit card. And so the question is, that is not something that would be considered even manageable for a family or an individual. So how much longer can the government pull it off will be the biggest question. And then that's why I think all this is coming to an end, you know, in a unruly fashion, because this is unbelievable. But yet most people don't even know about it, and that's what's kept us going so long. The fact that the public could care less about any of this. Like, you know, most people really could care less, and hence the fact that I know for let me see, we have about 50 or so people watching, and of course with 50 people watching, And I want to make sure I encourage you guys to hit that thumbs up button if you like, to just show your support. And I apologize once again for the microphone errors, but show some love to your boy with a thumbs up. Because here, the thing about this, the fact that you people that are watching are willing and able and wanting to sit here and go back and forth and just brainstorm and come up with ideas and talk about things that we won't really get a chance to talk about anywhere else. We are the 1%ers of people who care enough to actually pay attention to things that matter, truly matter, and to be able to position ourselves in a way where if you're a viewer of this channel, you know the importance of getting your weight up. And so, like I said before, like I can't give financial advice, but if you're watching this, then you know the importance of having something tangible, whether it's 1 gram, 100 grams, 100 ounces. Or in the case of the gentleman that did an article on today, lost his life holding 2 tons plus whatever else. But yet you guys are informed. So I feel like I'm doing my job, at least trying to get people to question some things. So, but that's enough of me ranting. So I apologize for that. Let's get back to some questions. What's going on? Talk to me a little bit. Give me some calls. Call in. Let me know what's going on. And so I'm going to touch on one of these articles, Jeff, and so we can just see what type of article Jeff is suggesting this evening. So that was the 1.5. All right, Jeff. So yeah, I was aware of that one, so I pulled that one up. Yeah, keep them coming, man. So Jeff, you definitely stay on top of yours. You stay on top of yours. It says, Mike, I like your rants. Yeah. With the rants for me, it's more so like as I'm speaking, fresh thought comes to mind, new ideas and new ways of spinning things that just say for any particular subject matter, the question can be point blank, yes or no. But in the midst of giving an answer on top of that yes or no, a new thought that can be a tweak to that answer comes about. So that could be a second option. Then I get a third one, then a fourth one. So throwing out 3 or 4 scenarios of how things can unfold. It's good to say, if we were to probably play some of these back 5, 10, 15 years from now, like in an unintended way, we might have walked through some scenarios that we are living and experiencing 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. And wouldn't it be good to say that, hey, I remember, one night we were all ranting. Mike was ranting about this and that, but he hit on the fact that this was going to happen or could happen. And then it triggered a thought in you to where today you take action because of me ranting type of thing, or us ranting, because we doing it together. But that's just something else. The GM closures make me feel like spending less. S. Douglas, the GM closures is making 14,700 people want to spend less. So you're not the only one, my friends, what I'm saying. It says Bear fires 12,000 workers. Oh, really? Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. So, man, like this is stuff that you just can't make this stuff up, man. This is real talk, people. Man, Bear to fire 12,000, one of every 10 workers after Monsanto legal troubles. And so here we have 12,000 employees, I'm assuming from all walks of the company, about to have their lives adjusted because of, as it says, Monsanto legal troubles, because Monsanto, one of those too big to fail institutions, that's not banking, but they into some questionable things in regards to the whole GMO and altering people's DNA. I mean, all types of things that, their products have been proven to not be of healthy use for the consumers in this legal crush and stuff. So 12,000 people. So once again, with 12,000 people being laid off, who does that really hurt? It doesn't really hurt Monsanto, because that's basically saying they're going to close up a division. So whatever the legal troubles is, whether it's a lotion, a bug spray, or whatever, they just close that plant down. That's less profit, less money, whatever. But that's 12,000 jobs. But we can let that go because we got this. So think about it, man. Like, so here we got 12,000 people, 14,000 right now with GM. So would it be too far-fetched to say that That's, what's that? 16,700 people that from major corporations, and we're not out of 2018. And so we got a month and a day, give or take. Let me make sure I'm correct. We got about a month left officially. Yeah, a month and a day left. And I would be willing, I mean, it wouldn't be too far-fetched for me to say that we can hear about another company next week saying that they're going to lay off another 5-figure, God forbid, closer to 6-figure type of layoffs. And so this is what's happening out in the public space, and in the private companies. Give or take, I'm more than confident that government needs to be, downsizing big time. Hence the idea that just today I came across an article stating that the IMF, Christine Lagarde, yes, in reference to the whole G20 meeting coming up in Argentina, gave a list of a couple countries that need to basically brace and prepare for, I forgot how it was worded, but they gave it a friendly name. They said that there's a couple countries that are in better position to better prepare for the time that there's another market downturn by loosening some of the things around the edges, so they'll have cushion to support their economy when things happen to turn under. So I'm thinking, like, wow, like that's pretty straightforward. She's basically saying that she's giving advice on how people can get ready for what's coming. But yet, in reference to some countries, the U.S. and Germany were mentioned because Germany has a huge surplus, the strongest country in the EU. But then for the U.S., the recommendation was that they begin chopping back a little bit in regards to government size, government spending, the deficits. And so at the end of the day, what that meant is that it's time to impose some austerity measures here in the U.S. And we know austerity is used as reform here in this country, but what it really means is cutbacks. So expect government cutbacks possibly. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Massachusetts, and I'm Typo.
Typo, how you doing tonight? Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm just wondering whether you're hearing people talk about communities that are based on cryptos, and whether you think they'll be more secure as we see corporations cutting employment and all of that. Local communities that are springing up like Las Vegas or Puerto Rico.
Ooh, okay. Communities, crypto-based communities. Apart from the big one that I think we all know about, Nevada, that 9-figure property deal going on out there, and then one down in Chile that I had a gentleman join me from Chile who's working on a project down there. It's community-based or crypto-based. Those are the only two that I'm aware of, but I imagine there's a lot more. And so I think that those type of environments will definitely probably do well as the older monetary system begins to crumble, because people are anticipating cryptos to probably surge in price. And if that does happen, the individuals that are in those communities will definitely profit majorly to where they'll be able to invest a lot into those communities. And it's just a matter of it being sustainable, because I'd imagine that if you have a small community doing well and the government around them is having issues funding things, they're going to basically either raise your tax, because I'm assuming every little plot of land that's it's in some country there's not like sovereign rights to that area, so it's still under the same government. So if the government has problems, I can expect they will knock on the door of that community, which will to cause problems as far as taxation and whatever else. So not quite sure how to play out, but there are communities, I'm sure, that plan on being safe hubs, whatever that means, when it comes to this next restructuring or reset that's happening.
You are fabulous. I heard Ohio is looking at accepting Bitcoin for taxes. And have you heard anything about that?
Yep. So I saw an article, and it was actually all through the crypto space about Ohio being the first one to accept Bitcoin for taxes. And so I mentioned that, I think, the other night or so. But my question with that would be, with the price now having dropped drastically and it being expected to rise to whatever they have it forecasted as, who really would want to spend their crypto at this early stage? Because it's still early for the crypto sector. So I don't foresee people really doing that, apart from them having to because of emergency situations. So I think it's a good step because it provides another avenue for municipalities to get some revenue, but I don't think it's going to be well utilized right now, especially having dropped down of 44,000, 4,100 right now. So good idea, but it's still a little too early.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, thanks for starting the conversation and making it public. It's really healthy conversation for us to have around the whole globe. So I appreciate it very much. Have a great night.
Thank you. Appreciate you for calling in. Appreciate you. Have a good night.
You too.
Yeah, man. Good stuff as always. Appreciate the question typo. Thank you for calling in. And so, yeah, man, it's as far as our monetary system, it's reached a peak. Basically, it's basically saying all empires come to an end, and the current monetary structure is considered an empire that is having problems, and so hence the birth of a new generation of something is different with this whole crypto blockchain stuff, which is being groomed and positioned for taking off where this old this old system leaves off. So someone said 42.91 per Bitcoin, which is extremely cheap in comparison to where it will be or where it's gone. And and here's another angle that most people don't tend to look at in reference to the nominal price of a Bitcoin, is the fact that it's worth 42.91 today, but it was worth 25 cents 10 years ago. And so if you look at it according to how much it's appreciated in relation to the dollar, if you would have bought one, of course, with 25 cents, you wouldn't be mad right now. So I would assume that, I would guess, this is just me guessing, that if you acquired one now at 42 or whatever it might go, it's a direct competitor to the current reserve currency of the world. And we know the downward trend of the consumer dollar in relation to what it can purchase. So I would feel more confident betting on the price of a primary Bitcoin or primary current cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin appreciating before it returns to its intrinsic value, given the nature and given where we're currently at now. So just hedging against the system, I think a Bitcoin would do a lot better than having 42.91 worth of paper in your pocket. Definitely in your bank account. It says even Bitcoin reduces the amount of manual labor in financial transactions. Some jobs aren't coming back. Very true. And so I like how a lot of commentators mentioned that, like always, because technology is always advancing, as we get smarter, as we get more connected, as technology just seems to get smarter, hence the whole AI, artificial intelligence, and smart stuff is underway now. With that comes the birth of a whole new sector of jobs of all kinds. So we're going to lose a lot of physical labor jobs because most Americans would not be willing to go in a plant and work in a hot factory without complaining for minimum wage or whatever that might be now and 10 years from now. So we're going to need new industry. We're going to need new jobs to appease people, as well as keep people in this economy. Because if not, we'll be picked over, because if you're an employer, a business owner, you will feel more comfortable and confident purchasing a robot to do some type of just manual labor type of job over a human being, because you ain't got to feed the human being. You can just you can program rather a robot, but with a human comes issues. So hence the idea that, and this is why I believe it's really important as a part of the whole preparation aspect mentally, but more so skills, like basically staying up to date on certain technologies. Like some people say they don't like crypto, they don't like this, but that sector is an official financial asset class, so it'll be worth your while to study a little bit so that you're not completely foreign to something that you will have to interact with. And so just my little 2 cents there, but I'm ranting again, so I apologize. And so as we draw towards the end, definitely want to get some last minute calls in, and then I have an article here I'm going to put on the screen, because apart from it being sent to me, I'm not familiar with it really. So let me see what's going on. It says between 6,000 and 10,000 churches in the U.S. are dying each year, and that means that over 100 will die this week. Interesting. Churches. That is something interesting. It says any institution needs resources in order to survive, and churches are not any different. Yeah, man. That is a this is a pretty big topic, because I wasn't aware of these numbers. Not sure how they came up with these numbers, but as you will see, 62,000 are deemed unsafe, and of course, thousands of other are life support all over the country this weekend. Small handfuls of people will gather in huge buildings which once boasted very large congregations. At one time, America was widely considered to be a Christian nation, but that reality isn't true anymore. Okay, so just in reading that, I got some thoughts that I want to share. Try to not make it a rant. And so the first thing that came to mind when reading about the idea that churches used to be churches, the church institution, the business side of the church institution has grown in accordance to the growth of our economic prosperity as a nation. So over the last 20, 30 years, as our country has taken on excessive debt, 21 trillion plus, credit that much more plentiful, it has given the illusion that this nation is doing better than what it really is in relation to people being willing to give as far as tithes and offerings. And so with a bigger congregation comes the need for a bigger building. And so I would never question God's work, because God always provides what he calls for. And so there's a lot of churches that I assume in this number might not have been called for or officially licensed in regards to God actually putting in the heart of the leaders his plans for them to do such things. Or God also works in mysterious ways, it seems like, in all things work together for the good according to those that are called, according to Scripture. So with that being the case, this number here doesn't surprise me, because I look at it, first thing I saw was 6,000, 10,000. I thought business. You have a business. You have people with payroll. You have pastors that, I will never knock a pastor, because if you're called to work directly for the kingdom of heaven, you're going to be blessed. So I never front on a person because of how they're prospering for being faithful to God's word. But with that being the case, from a business standpoint, there'll probably be a lot more churches that will close just because they've grown in accordance with this worldly manner, as opposed to probably what should have been done from a faithful steward of managing the word and not intermingling so much the business like they have. Especially they have that whole tax incentive with the government, which I'm assuming will also have issues with that whole, was it 503B, which alters what the pastor can actually say and do. So I don't support that at all. But it is what it is. It is what it is. It says, how many silver ounces would you say is good amount to have in order to capitalize in this next reset? Legendary Lou. Good question there. And so watch this. What I'm going to do for you, I'm not going to give you my thoughts on the matter. I'm going to direct you to a credible source, and I will actually play it. Well, I probably won't play it for time's sake, because it'll take a minute. But just to answer your question, but to leave it in the hands of someone who's been around longer, know a little bit more than me in reference to how all this stuff works together. If you go, I actually extracted this. Feel free to call in, ask any questions direct. I actually extracted this right here. So I'm going to point you to this. If you go to the Rethinking the Dollar YouTube page, and I'm actually going to put it right here in the status, Legendary Lou, I would encourage you to take a minute and listen to this short excerpt. It's 2 minutes long, but it is, RTD friend David Morgan, who I had on the show the other day. He actually, in his title, and not title, but I gave it a title, How Much Metal Do You Need in Your Portfolio? So I'm going to leave it at that. Click that link, listen to that, watch the interview more importantly, and then you'll get an idea of what would be recommended for your portfolio, which then ties into that same question of how much do you need? How much would you need? Because he makes a good point in his statement here, saying that it's all relative to whatever your income level is. So it could be different for different people. Like, if you're a millionaire and you're trying to protect those millions, then you're going to need a lot more weight than someone who makes, $1, $1,000, or $2, whatever. So keep it at that. But definitely click that link there and you'll get a chance to listen to that. And then you can go listen to the interview all together, because it was loaded with stuff, man. Loaded with stuff. Meetups are also a great place. Trade peer-to-peer. David Morgan, exactly. Austin. What else we got? Your credit cards are fiat money digitally. Yes. You missed the strip T. What happened? 501c3. Good one. There's no such thing as a pastor in the Bible. Kryptonium. There's what is it? There's seven different. I think if I'm not mistaken, there's 7 different positions of leadership, of which, if you're a believer in Christ, you are one of the 7, or you are a part of that whole. Everyone's called, and so we're all disciples. And if you're a disciple of Christ, then you are a follower. And if you're a follower, he gave us mandates that we should go and preach. So we should all go and preach. Then we are all called to be preachers. You know, if you want to use it from that term there. But, you know, if you're a believer in Christ, we have a mandate to share the good news. And it so happens that we have bishops, apostles, prophets, whatever, in position of leadership over the flock, over the ecclesia, which is the church. So, which is the body of Christ. So that when everyone has a role in its family, my friend. And if you're a part of us, welcome. Glad to have you join us here for this worldly chat. But more importantly, the fact that if you're in Christ, you're a brother in Christ. I appreciate that. Evangelist, probably, yeah, there you go. Yeah, man, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. So anyway, so let me as I promised, I preach crypto nonstop. Can't even enter the temple of God. No authority for you. Okay. I says I preach end times nonstop. Okay, so as we draw towards the end, as I mentioned, I want to live up to my promise. And so what I want to do, which I haven't done in a while, given the fact that completely slipped my mind, but I'm going to throw out a question. And so, like always, we might be a little bit of a time delay. So I'm going to try to find a question. I may not have one on hand. If I can't find one, then I'll find out a way to get it to everybody. But let's try this one time, since it is still Get Your Weight Up month. Coming down a home stretch with that, but I want to throw out a question to you. And as always, I think what was it? 5 seconds, 6 seconds I gave you on my time to answer the question. And so let me just take a second here, because I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't thinking about having issues on my part. So let me see if I can come up with a question. For you guys, of which I'm been put on the spot, so I don't want to waste time trying to find questions. So as I mentioned about trying to throw out a question, but I don't have one. So what I'm going to do to make up for this evening, I'm going to make note that on Monday for the next live stream, I'll throw out. And so this is what I want you to hold me to. I'll throw out 2 opportunities on Monday, one in the beginning of the stream and one at the end. So you'll have 2 opportunities to answer correctly within a 5 or 6 second time frame to win a gram. And I got grams around here, or nope, I do got weight. I always keep weight. I always keep weight nearby. Just because what I love to do, this is off the point, of course, but I love to sit here at the computer when I'm in deep thought, and you can't see it, but I just thumb them around and just go into my concentration mode when I'm trying to do some work behind the screen. And definitely stuff always comes. But anyway, so people, as always, man, it's been great having you guys join us. I see the chat is pretty active. And so once again, I just feel bad, man, that I was talking and I wasn't paying attention to the screen because I was doing some stuff, trying to pull some graphs up. And so once that being the case, Mr. Spirit King, man, please keep it clean, please. It's not showing up on your side, but I can see it on my side. And I want to make sure that we are respecting everybody in the chat. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion on different matters. So let's keep it friendly and family-oriented here. It says, my comment didn't appear on the screen. Yep, because it's not, your comment didn't appear because it's automatically filtered because it wasn't a thought that built up the audience, my friend. And so, other than that, get your weight up, people. Definitely get your weight up. Don't hesitate. Do what you do. And looks like for whatever reason on my side, my screen keep freezing, so I'm not sure that you guys are seeing the same thing. But once again, take advantage of the opportunity here to my left. Get your weight up, and also get this book. Read it. You'll understand the importance of gold and how it played a role prior to Mr. Greenspan doing what he did with our system, plus his colleagues. But anyway, it's been fun. It's been great, man. Give me a thumbs up if you haven't, and see you guys next week. I got some stuff coming for you tomorrow. That I actually got a couple things lined up that I think will be very informative for you guys, and more importantly, to help more people get informed. If you enjoy the news or any of the documentary type of things, feel free to share it just so people can come across it. And what it does, it helps add to the community, but more importantly, it helps people, gets people's minds churning and getting them thinking about what's really happening out in this world. So other than that, be blessed, be safe, have a good evening, and I will see you guys later. Peace.